So I don't need these as much as I thought I did. Yay! Oh, good morning. What to do, what to do, what to do. Hello, 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 hi. Hey there, hi there. How are you? Good morrow. Good afternoon, good sir. It's not afternoon for me yet. It's still firmly in the AM, which I'm fine with. I've got shit to do this morning. The Duke of Louisiana, huh? Sir Eats a Lot I've seen recently, but Eric the Fed I think died. I think he fell off of his Viking longboat into the briny sea, never to return. Whereas Ashley, she's still in bed. Everybody else in the house is still in bed, except for no, everybody is. Talk about how the YT shooter is a dude. What? And trans people are freaking out. What? I don't know what you're talking about, man. Hello, fellow human waste. Yeah. We are all waste. So yeah, I'm trying to warm my voice up a little bit before going on the morning wood. I'm going on Pimp Monk show this morning, 10 a.m. So in like 2 hours. So I guess we're gonna talk about comedians, and I guess there's gonna be a couple other people with me, so it should be fun. Is this opinions of the world from a saltered perspective? Oh shit, dude. Oh shit, dude. I've heard this weird ass speculation that the chick was actually a dude. No idea where people are getting that from. They're just pulling it out of their asses at this point. Um, I did see some people saying that she was a trans woman or whatever, but I haven't heard anything on the news about that. And until I do, I don't really see any reason to believe it. I mean, she didn't look like a trans person who wasn't passing to me, but whatever. Yeah, this is going to be a live stream heavy day for me. I'm choosing to start my day with this, then doing the morning wood with Pimp Monk, and then this evening TJ and I are doing a Cynics versus Cinema. So I'm gonna spend a lot of days staring into the mirror of doom. God, look at my face. Look at my wrinkly face. Oh God. It's okay, I'm over it now. Working on a fresh flied intro. Cool, dude. Yeah, we need it. The ones the ones that we were the ones we've gotten so far have been interesting and great. Fresh Friday. Paul, my dad thinks the world is controlled by satanic Freemason. How do I change his mind? The only way to change. Never mind. I'm not even going to say that. That's one of those, you know, my morning filter hasn't quite kicked in yet, but it definitely caught that one before it came out of my mouth. I was going to give you an elaborate explanation that led to the only way to change your dad's mind about something like that would be to shoot him in the head. That would be that would be the wrong, you know what I mean? You want to be a news story, like That's just your way of doing it right there. So you gotta deny your comedic instinct sometimes, because sometimes it's just not lined up with reality. You don't think his dad? I mean, yeah, but it has to come with from within his dad, which means that you may as well just put as much faith in it as you put in Santa Claus flying over the fucking house and dropping presents down your chimney and shit. People don't change. That's not fundamentally. Most people don't. Everybody has the ability, but most people don't ever take advantage of it. Did I go to bed? Yes. I indeed did. Yeah. I think I awoke to Ashley when I got out of bed. So I jumped in the shower, tried to be quiet, but it's only so much quiet a dude of my size can pull off, you know? Dorptimus Prime? What? Did I just actually see that, or did I imagine that in my brain? Let's rewind back. Nope, I imagined it. I briefly saw somebody's comment as it scrolled off screen, and my brain was like, he said Dorptimus Prime. Did I sew this pig on myself? No, actually. I got this beanie and one other one, a black one with the same logo on it, about 5 years ago, probably, on Amazon. Maybe four. No, 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 no. This isn't just woke up Paul. This is recently woke up Paul who's had a shower. Just woke up Paul doesn't stream. Just woke up Paul doesn't care about anybody and doesn't want any other human beings around him ever. That Paul dies in the shower usually every morning. It'd be kind of a cool I don't know, maybe a dark comedy or something. To have a guy that's like me, you know what I mean? Just like has really, really bad morning anger, you know? Like it wakes up on the wrong. You could even call it the wrong side of the bed. And you know, one day, like you could show him like he goes through his life every day. He wakes up and he's just pissed at the world. He fucking hates everybody, and he's on the board, you know, of violent. But he gets in the shower. While he's in the shower, it just kind of melts away. But one day, he gets in the shower and it doesn't go away. See, sounds pretty good to me. So a guy with depression who hates his life and kids, yeah, basically, and his wife, and his dog. The wrong side of the bed. The shower breaks. Yeah, maybe that's what sets it off. Maybe that sets off the psychotic break where, you know, the angry personality takes him over totally. I was watching some of your stuff from 2016, and it feels like, at least in what you show us, you seem happier. You screamed more on old DP episodes. I like the chill Paul you present on DFF. I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't like to hear this, but I can't, you know, when people ask me questions about it, I'm going to be honest. Like, there was a lot of me in my presentation to, you know, the people that watch Drunken Peasants, but it was a performance. And it was a performance that leaned toward a certain kind of outburst and a certain kind of energy to help drive the show. And, you know, it was born of conversations with the other guys and, you know, my own kind of instincts on things. But ultimately, like, that was kind of what I was trying to bring to that show. And Deep Fat Fried is structured differently, has a different pace to it, and has kind of a different uh, just overall feel to it. And I can be a little bit more relaxed in that environment while still, you know, indulging myself in moments of freak out and shit. A lot of people don't like my answer to that question because they don't feel like what I was doing. Like, I don't know. There seems to be two camps. There seems to be one camp of people who says that I'm not, there was no performance at all, or that there is no performance at all when you're in front of people, and that I'm just trying to make excuses for behavior. And then other people that think that it shouldn't be a performance and that I'm doing the wrong thing by coming at that sort of thing as a performance. I don't know. It seems to really trigger people, but it's the truth. How the fuck do they know? That's a great question. I'm not saying to implicitly trust me, but wouldn't I have more insight than your average Joe? I mean, you'd at least consider what I'm saying, right? Oftentimes, people don't want it. I think when you become a personality in somebody's life, meaning that you're an entertainer that somebody watches every week for hours. People I think that have been doing that for a long time have a tendency to want to really scrutinize that performer and come up with their own ideas about what's driving the performance, or whether it's a performance at all, what's real, what isn't. Um, I guess it's a good thing, honestly, to have people speculate about that. Um, it means they're interested. But once again, most of the time, people don't have as direct access to the entertainers that they watch as they do with YouTube people, who are way more apt to dive in and engage with their communities. I like the DFF portal. I always laughed, but felt a tiny bit stressed out watching you get super mad. Now it seems like annoyance with stupid topics, which is just funny but less stress. Sure. I mean, a big part of doing the Drunken Peasants was allowing myself to genuinely get angry, when it happened. And I'm sure that, as Deep Fat Fried gets, older, gets more shows behind it, that we will come across a topic that inspires that same kind of anger and, outburst from me. But, you know, the Drunken Peasants, in a way, was kind of structured around getting that kind of reaction, not out of just me, but out of everybody on the cast, and any guest that we had. It was like trying to push buttons constantly, right? Which was kind of fun for a guy prone to emotional outbursts like me. Um, but yeah, no, I can't say that um, I don't mind the more kind of laid back conversational nature of DFF. I mean, that's one of the principles that the show was conceived around. When we were in very early talks, talking about the tone and the format and, the name and what we were going to call it and how we were going to distribute it. And, when it was in its very early conceptual stages, that was a central tenet that, we wanted to play to the strength of all three of us being friends, and in the case of Scotty and TJ, brothers who know each other very well, and kind of mimic the types of conversations that we have off the air with one another. Give it a more kind of relaxed, chill out, three guys hanging out, riffing on something feel. And rather than this, constantly driving energy that is the engine of the Drunken Peasants. I'm watching you talk, but yet you aren't saying anything. Hmm. Okay. The chill factor. Yeah. Um, I personally really enjoy DFF too because it lets me do what my brain kind of tries to do naturally with a subject that I find interesting or funny, which is to chew on it until there's nothing left of it. Um, you know, early on the Drunken Peasants, one of the conversations that was had with me multiple times by multiple members of the cast was for me to try and curtail my tangential nature. You know, my kind of um, propensity to get stuck on one little aspect of a topic and want to spin it out for a while. Because once again, like I said, Drunken Peasants is a show that it relies heavily on that energetic pace. It's like you're always on to the next thing. And that was a hard one for me to learn how to do properly, and maybe I never really got to where I needed to be with that. But it was certainly something I was trying to do. Would you consider having guests on DFF to choose some of your topics? Yeah, man. It's something that we've definitely talked about. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Um, there are some technical things that we need to hammer out before. I just don't want to end up wasting somebody's time again, like we did with the poor fucking Bible Reloaded that night. Where, from our perspective, everything was set up properly, but for some reason, it just would not work with Skype or Discord. No matter how we tried to do it, we just couldn't get things working. And as a result, those two guys, who are awesome, by the way, for doing so, kind of sat there for like an hour and a half while we did troubleshooting, and then ended up not getting to come on the show at all. Um, so there's some technical things that need to be ironed out um, before we can do that. But yeah, I would really I really like the idea of trying to get maybe even get an expert to come on and speak about things. Think about the end of the world episode with the benefit of having you know a call in from uh, an astrophysicist or something who's willing to talk to us about what would happen if these asteroids, and kind of explain it to us so that we didn't have to rely so much on material we found online. Would be pretty cool. um, and it could be like a shorter guest appearance too. It wouldn't have to be that guy sat there for the whole show. Maybe he's just there for 20 or 30 minutes to talk about the asteroid impact with us. I like that you guys aren't taking Streamlabs or anything like that. That stuff really kills the flow when you interrupt what you're saying to read dumb shit. People feel the need to say. I mean, especially in a show like the one we're doing now, I totally agree. Like, um, yeah, dude, it would just be. I mean, it's way reliant on train of thought, and I have my train of thought is very easily interrupted. You've probably seen me a million times on here start to say something and then read a super chat or read a comment that I see fly by real quick, and then I come back to it and I'm like I was saying, you guys have to remind me what I was talking about, because my train of thought is very easily derailed and moved on to another topic, and before I know it, I'm so far down the road of that topic that I don't have room in my memory bank for the previous topic. Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of good things ahead for fans of DFF. Pretty much every time we have a meeting to talk about what we're going to do in the future, something new is posited and tried, and it feels good to be in a position where the show can evolve and kind of defy the expectations of the audience a little bit by giving them something they didn't know they wanted. You know what I mean? Um, I appreciate you're willing to take a cut in money to bring us a better show. I mean, quite honestly, what we've I don't really know. I mean, I'm not trying to dissuade people from joining the Patreon, but I don't know that we are losing money given our strategy of focusing all of that energy towards our Patreon. Um, you know, it's liberating as a content creator to be able to deliver something so simply. You know what I mean? In terms of, you know, hey, if you want to buy into the show, here's what you get. There's one buy-in price, and I don't know, man. I just have a lot of faith in that model going forward. I think that we can, just really focus on building, kind of the idea. I mean, we're not pushing it as such, and we're not treating it as such, but the idea is almost like a subscription model, right? Where it's like for your $5 a month, you're getting these 4 extra shows plus this extra content. I mean, we've got plans on bestowing, little surprises on our DFF patrons and shit. So it's gonna end up being, 4 extra shows plus, you know, random tidbits here and there, some extra shows here and there, some special shows here and there. So I don't know. It just feels good to be able to offer somebody something very simple and have them say, "Yep, you know what? I'll buy into that." That's cool. Have you seen the controversy with Channel Awesome? Yeah. Me and TJ talked about it pretty extensively last night on his stream. So over on TJ Does Life, we chilled together for 2 or 3 hours last night, and that was one of the topics we spent quite a bit of time on. So you'll forgive me for not wanting to rehash my thoughts here, but I'm a little done with that topic. I think I've said what I want to say. Your favorite apocalypse scenario is definitely the virus or super bug killing everyone. It is one of the cool ones. I mean, not cool in terms. Thank you, Coolman. Not not cool in terms of like living through it, but cool in terms of imagining it, I guess. I agree. Was that towards the end of the stream? I think it was actually towards the beginning, right near the beginning, actually. So the gray goo is freaky, but it seems almost lame in a sense. The others are at least badass looking. Yeah, I mean, you really have to try and visualize the gray goo as a global kind of catastrophe, right? The way it would happen in my mind is that the goo would have to start replicating somewhere where there weren't a lot of eyes on it, because I feel like if we were able to fight it as it was replicating, you know what I mean, we'd probably shut it down. So it would have to like maybe underneath the ocean. That would be a really interesting concept. Think about that, dude. These rogue self-replicating nanobots, right? Flee to the ocean where there really are no human eyes anywhere to speak of. They go down deep to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, right? And just start fucking consuming carbon and self-replicating, and they become this giant mass in the ocean that we have no idea is coming until it's too late. I think it could be a really cool flick or sci-fi novel or something. Do you like NoFX? some of what I've heard. I hesitate to call myself a fan of the band, but I like some of what I've heard. Become an underrose though. I'm not super worried about nature. You know what I mean? We've done a lot of damage in that department during our short reign here on the planet. But once we're wiped off the face of the planet, in terms of, especially on a planetary scale, it won't be a hot minute before we're just a bad memory, and you know, nature has healed all those wounds. I will be right back. Psycho, groupie, cocaine, crazy. Psycho, groupie, cocaine, crazy. Psycho, groupie, cocaine, crazy. Psycho, groupie. Whoa. Paul, I feel that you and TJ are the new Carlin and Hicks. No. I don't think that either of us reached that level. Something like global warming is the most likely one. Humanity gets pretty much drowned out of existence, and eventually Earth heals itself. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, there needs to be a group of Down syndrome people that create a cover band called System of a Downs, and it would be awesome. Tell me that wouldn't instantly be a meme. You know what I mean? They would earn a great living for themselves, which is something, people with their affliction often can't do. Syndrome of a Down, yeah, that would work too. I mean, however they want it. I mean, maybe they could have multiple competing Down syndrome bands, cover bands. Psycho, doopy, cocaine, day. I don't do bit cocaine crazy, psycho, groupie, make me high, make me really wanna go. I mean, I'm not trying to make fun. I'm just saying. I'd fucking watch it, dude. I'd fucking watch it. I play Russian roulette every day. It's a man's sport with a bullet called life. Yes, with a bullet called life. I know it's insensitive, but I'm just saying, like, I'm genuinely saying I would go see it live. I would buy it. I would fucking get the t-shirt. I'd be a fan of that band, dude. I agree. My ham-fisted portrayal of a retarded person is a little insensitive. Are you a reader, Paul? If so, what do you read? Fiction, novels, short stories? Any favorites? Any books that shaped you? The first real, I mean, I'll just give you a quick rundown. Hatchet by Gary Paulson, which is, a kid's book, kind of, but still a book that I go back to quite often. The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Those were the first really dense books that I ever read, and really shaped what I like in a book. Dune, all the way through God Emperor of Dune. So Dune, Dune Messiah, and God Emperor of Dune. All three of those books are just amazing. Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbo. I've talked a lot about that book before, so um, yeah, those would be, and I guess fiction is really what I enjoy reading. Although I do read nonfiction. I'm in the process of trying to finish up um, Senatus Populus K Romanus by Mary Beard, which is just a book about the Roman Empire from the perspective of different personalities during different eras. So kind of a more intimate look at life during the Roman Empire at different stages. So it's pretty cool. So I like that shit. Wasn't the Metallica song "One" based off Johnny Got His Gun? I do not know. Finally, listen to some of the mumble rap you were complaining about. Holy hell, the people who make or enjoy listening to that should be sterilized and put. I mean, dude, whatever. People can be into what they want to be into, but that is just not an accessible subculture for me anymore. I cannot fucking understand that shit. But it'll rotate out eventually. What's an example of mumble rap? Like Migos or Lil Pump or whatever the fuck. Heavily auto-tuned. They usually try and sing at some point in it and have to auto-tune themselves to the point where it's just almost comical. And then you probably understand, like, I don't know, 1 out of every 3 words that they say. Tyga, yeah, that's another one. Well, yeah, dude, if you like, if you like this shit and you're fucking 19, I mean, that's what you're the people that are driving the fucking music industry right now, so of course they're gonna make that shit for you guys. I mean, clearly there's something about it that you guys like. So I'm gonna have to listen to it for a while. I get it. I'm fine with that. It works out okay for everybody involved. I can ignore it and you can walk around, like roll around town bumping like on in the morning of stress. And everybody's just like, what's he saying? Someone, hey, huh, you, yeah, huh. Whatever, dude. You ain't telling me what to bump in my car, so we're all good. Listen to Rich Gang Lifestyle to know what mumble rap is. All right, yeah. Oh, come on, man, dude, you can't make that comparison. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. They don't even pay attention to the lyrics. It's all about the beat. Yeah, but the beats are usually pretty fucking sparse and rudimentary and shit. I mean, I can get with that though. I will say that, like, if you strip the shit vocals and stuff off of a lot of these songs, there's some pretty, like, dark, simple, low-key beats there. I just think that it would sound better with someone actually doing some rapping over them, but... Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's my entry point to mumble rap, because I have heard mumble rap songs that have a really kind of cool groove to them, but the vocal is, it's important to me. Have you heard the song "Mamuna Mamuna Haruna" by Paul Zigo? Yeah, that's one of my Mamuna Mamuna Haruna. I'm gonna say Madonna. I keep it on money. I get you on all bitch. I come on I'm rich. I'm on stacks, I'm on backs, I'm on tricks. Yeah, man, I got that flow, dude. I got that pro flow. Yeah. What? Huh? Yeah. 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 Just need a beat, man. Get out of here, Bobby Bush. ASAP Parky. That would be pretty funny. Have you ever played The Last of Us? If so, what was your impression of the game? The Last of Us. Did not play it. Watched TJ play it and get frustrated with it, and it made me laugh. So that's basically the only thing I can say about the game. I actually have it. It's on my PS4, but I never played it. I did watch TJ try and play it for about 2 hours once, and he was fucking so frustrated with it. Have you heard the song? What? Unga Bunga Chunga? What? Yeah, I'll eventually play it. Can you fit inside of a hula hoop? Probably like a double XL hula hoop, you know? Not like one of those like toddler hula hoops. That ain't happening. That shit ain't flying. What was one of your favorite classes at college? I mean, it's probably not telling you a whole lot that I really liked the theater classes that I got to take while I was there. Um, One of the times I went back to college, that was I just got lost in that shit, man. I found out that I could get a performance credit for being in a show, and so one semester I just decided to, get my credits by just being in shows. So I did 4 shows. I mean, and it was kind of stupid to do it that way because it was assuming that I would get cast in the shows in a primary role that required, enough hours contributed to get the performance credit. But whatever, I guess I was cocky because I did get cast in all 4 of them, back to back to back to back shows. And that was one of the coolest times of my life, honestly. Also, one of the hardest because I was also working at Starbucks at the time. So, I mean, I basically, it was 16-hour days for 6 or 8 months. But definitely a cool time where, a lot of the focus of my life was performance and, schedule would have been fucked. Yeah, I mean, luckily I was working at Starbucks at the time, and I'd been there for such an absurd amount of time compared to everybody else that when I requested my schedule be made around my performance schedule, nobody was gonna bitch. I'd been there for fucking ever. What roles did I play? So those 4 shows were I played. The first one was called Anna in the Tropics. I played Cheche in that, which was a pretty different role for me right off the bat, um, because it was creepy. It was my first real non-comedic role. Um, Goddamn Paul Parkey in every single show. Yeah, I did. I did show up. I did show up quite often in a lot of these shows. Would you like to star in a movie, Paul? If so, what kind of movie? I don't know. I never really had the ambition to do movies, so probably not, actually. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but It's just not one of the things that I really want. What do you think about the idea of switching public school funding from local property taxes to a federal system? This could remove the income disparity between schools. Um, I mean, it could remove the income disparity between schools, but it could also remove the autonomy from schools to tailor make their, like, you know what I mean? Their curriculum sometimes centers around local things because a lot of these kids are never going to leave that area. They're going to settle down there like their parents did. And so having a curriculum, and like where I grew up, there was a lot of agriculture curriculum that you probably would never get in a school in LA and stuff. So how standardized would things get underneath, you know, the oversight of the federal government to that extent, to where the, you know, it's all federally funded, which means it's all federally overseen. That's the thing that worries me about that. I've seen Moral Oral, yeah. Don't most people die within 100 miles of where they're born? I don't know if it's most people, but I know that a significant portion of people do. I'll be right back. Oh, I hear a dinosaur. Little dinosaur. Dinosaur. Hello, boy. Are you cold? You want to go inside? It is a little chilly. You want to go inside or you want to go potty? You seem fine. Oh, typical Paul, always getting distracted. Yeah. What were your favorite drinks to make at Starbucks? I really just liked working the bar at Starbucks. I hated making frappuccinos. Everybody at Starbucks hates making frappuccinos, even to this day. They wish they didn't exist because they're a pain in the ass and you make tons of them every day. And it's basically just standing by a blender. But I really liked actually working the bar, especially before they moved to automated espresso machines where now they're just push button. That happened right before I left, and I hated that. I really liked working an old standard analog espresso bar. The day just fucking flew by, especially if you were working a rush. So I worked at Caribou, and blended drinks were cancer to make. Yeah, everybody hated them. So you guys, I don't know if you can hear the one. There's one. There's the four chirper. That one, and then he's got a friend that's somewhere in the middle distance over to my left here, and he's doing like five, and he's going faster. But they're answering each other. It's pretty cool. They're having like a little bird versation. They'd be getting ready to bang. You think so? Well, yeah, it's spring, huh? So yeah, they probably are. I just wish they'd start flying towards each other and find each other already. Bird calls make you furiously mad when you're trying to sleep. Yeah, I could see that. I guess I don't really hear many birds when I'm trying to go to sleep, or it's quiet enough that it's below my radar. Dog barking when I'm trying to sleep, though, oh man, that's a whole different ball of wax right there. Make a bird's nest out of your beard. At 6 a.m. here, they can sometimes go nuts. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you hear what they do in the morning here, but I guess it doesn't bother me on the same level. Is that the googly eye? Is that a low-key way to point out my googly eye? Did you ever think your whole life was like the Truman Show? No. But, and I know I've talked about him here before, but I had a friend, well, an acquaintance, I guess. I'd call him a friend. We were friends while we, were close enough in proximity to know each other. He was named Alex. He was a Jewish kid by ethnicity, but once we became friends, he told me what he really believed, which he was like really the only true solipsist that I've ever met. He was dead serious about it. He believed that the entire world was not like the Truman Show, like it was faked by some government agency, but like the Truman Show, in that everything in reality existed for him to experience it. And all of the people in reality that surrounded him out in the general public were just put there for him to perceive them so that he could interact with them should he want or need to. And they all ceased to exist as soon as they were out of his sensory range. So as soon as he couldn't see, hear, or smell you, you didn't exist. Seems like a very narcissistic outlook. He didn't really. I can see where you're coming from, but he didn't really show any of the traits of a narcissist. He didn't act that way. He didn't act like he was aloof and above everybody and the master of the universe. He didn't portray himself that way. It wasn't something that I would have thought about him without having him sit down and explain it to me in intimate detail. But seems borderline skits, maybe. It didn't come off as paranoid either. I do a pretty piss poor job of, I give a really rudimentary idea of what he believed about reality. He and I spent really long hours into the late night discussing his worldview. And I had the benefit of hearing it straight from the horse's mouth. And I've condensed it down to something that's bite-sized. But really, there was a lot of thought put into it. A guy named Alex that I was friends with for a few months as a kid. It's a totally unprovable hypothesis, and even if it is true, doesn't change the fact that you still can't control anything in your life. Interesting, but useless. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it, too. I tend to lean more towards the interesting than the useless because that was a really fruitful conversation for me. It was my first introduction to that kind of aspect of philosophy. And I didn't even know what it was called for many years. He didn't introduce himself as a solipsist. This was just his worldview. And once I learned what solipsism was, I immediately said, oh, that's what Alex was. But I don't know. I like that there are people out there like him. Diversity of opinion and diversity of thought is one of the things that makes the world go round in terms of life being worth living. But when I was trying to have kids, I posited the name Alex because of that kid. Even though I haven't talked to him since I was 16 years old, and probably won't ever talk to him again because for the life of me, I can't remember what his last name was, and I don't know how I would find his name on the rolls of 1996's California State Summer School for the Arts. I don't know how I would even go about that. But whatever. He and I were friends for a brief time, and his last name was Truman. That would be kind of funny. I don't think it was. There's sometimes, like, I'll try and think about it, because I've thought about calling that guy and just seeing what he's up to, trying to reach out to him, because he and I were pretty good friends. We got along pretty well. We ended up being forced into being friends by being paired up as scene partners for the big giant project, which was to perform this big 15-minute scene. And you spent the entire semester with that person, learning it, practicing every day, refining it and stuff. So it was just kind of by happenstance that we ended up being paired together, and he was one of the more interesting people I ever met. So pretty cool. He was a scrawny little kid, and he had a really, really pronounced googly eye. Much different than mine. You know what I mean? Mine is a very, it's kind of a subtle Google, and his was like, he had one eye that just very much was looking in a different direction. Severe astigmatism, I think they call that. He wasn't sightless in that eye, but yeah. And he was like a scrawny, kind of dorky looking little kid with a lot of interesting ideas about the world. Have you read of any of Juni Ito's work? Very unsettling and interesting. I have not, no. My philosophy teacher in high school prepped us for a world of people who don't necessarily think the way we did. And we had a twiggy, raven-haired emo bitch who was a solipsist. Okay, cool. You're lucky to have had not only a philosophy teacher that introduced you to the idea that your opinion was just one in an ocean, but also that you got exposed to philosophy beyond just touching on it at all. Like the fact that you had a philosophy class. You know what I mean? Pretty cool. Solipsism doesn't really jive with what we know about physics and brains. Well, that doesn't matter to a solipsist, though. You got to understand a solipsist's worldview, and a lot of people deride solipsism, and I do too. I don't think it's a very smart position to take. But having actually sat down and had a conversation with one and gotten to know one, I can't fault it as a worldview. I mean, once again, it is one of the great many unfalsifiable hypotheses out there. From a solipsist perspective, your musings on whether or not solipsism makes sense in the scientific scheme of things never come into question for that person. At least wouldn't have for Alex. Just because something on the surface is implausible doesn't mean it's not worth considering as a thought experiment. Absolutely. And it also doesn't mean I don't like the fact that there are eccentric people out there in the world that go down those philosophical rabbit holes and are willing to make their homes there. Because you know what, dude? I've been sitting here for what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes having a conversation about a conversation that I had with this guy. So the fact that someone like him existed enriched my life greatly, and I think probably would enrich a lot of people's lives who sat down and really genuinely listened without just going, "Oh, you're a fucking loon, man." I had that moment with him. I'm not going to lie and say I was just like an open book to his philosophy. When he first told me it, I laughed in his face. And he laughed right with me. You know what I mean? But I was willing to listen to the dude, and I was willing to entertain his craziness. And because of that, I learned a lot about myself. So he's one of the philosophers that wandered into my life. isn't the unfalsifiable hypothesis thing how pretty much all philosophical concepts work? Why, yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe not every philosophical concept, but yeah, it's certainly not the only one that relies on an unfalsifiable hypothesis. I mean, philosophy is intertwined with science at the same time being kind of apart from it. It's about human thought and less about how the world works and more about how we perceive the world. What did you learn about myself? I learned that the way that I see the world, my scientifically rooted, scientifically grounded, naturalistic view of the universe is just that. It's one amongst many. It was the first time I'd ever talked to somebody who had a non religious philosophical worldview that was wildly different from my own. Solipsism, the belief that the person holding the belief is the only real thing in the universe. All other persons and all other things are merely ornaments or impediments to his happiness. Yes, but Alex's worldview is a little different than that. He didn't look at anybody as an impediment. He looked at everything as something that he secretly wanted. He looked at the people that surrounded him and interacted with him, whether they were bullies or friends, whether the interaction was positive or negative, as real-time expressions of his subconscious will. That's the best way that I can put it without spending, a bunch of time trying to explain it. He believed that his subconscious mind was constantly creating what he needed, what his conscious mind needed to remain engaged with the world. So, not only did he believe that he was the center of everything, but he believed he was the creator of everything, subconsciously. So, a god. And he didn't call himself a god because he believed that a god needed to have subjects. See, when I said, so you're God, and he was like, no. Gods, gods are only gods if they have something else to be compared to. That was his answer. Right? So you can't be a god if you're the only thing. You're not a god. You're just everything that is. Did he explain how he came to this worldview? It's one of the more eerie things about the conversation. He told me that he's always known it. He talked about knowing it from the first memories that he has. Toddler, little flashes of toddler memories and shit. He claims it's just been something that was the background radiation of his life. And he didn't know what to call it when he was younger. But as he got older and thought about it, it was something that he obviously needed to solve, a feeling in himself. He needed to have something to call it. And the thought about what that was is what led him to where he was. Dinor, could you please, dude? People are allowed to be out and walking around and stuff. It's a neighborhood, man. How did he feel when he was bored? Why would his mind create something that bores him if he's supposed to be engaged? Alex didn't get bored. I want you to think about that for a second. And that's not bullshit. Boredom just wasn't a part of his life. Alex looked at everything around him as almost like something that he painted for himself. It was like a constant sensory experience for him. He just was not bored. He didn't carry negativity with him. He wasn't, that's one of the things that makes him a memorable person in my mind. Because looking at him, when I was paired up with him and first getting to know him, my assumptions about him were that he was a dorky looking kid with a googly eye who probably got made fun of a lot, who's probably real sensitive about all of that stuff, and has probably developed this funny kind of structure, this funny persona that he tries to put forth, because he was a very funny dude. But I thought, that's just a mechanism, a defense mechanism from... but I was very wrong. I was very, very wrong about that. As I got to know him, I genuinely came to believe that he was a guy that, for the most part, at least in his life, carried no negativity. At least not directed inward. So pretty cool. Was he one of those people that he can escape into his own mind easily? Or was he the solipsistic worldview enough to keep him entertained, just basking in his own creation, essentially? Probably closer to the latter, but he was very, very capable of retreating into his own mind. He spent hours and hours just looking at things, you know? He was a guy that, you know, when I would come to look for him or whatever, I'd often find him sitting kind of apart from the crowd, just kind of looking at a tree or laying on the ground looking up at the sky or whatever the fuck. Like, he just really enjoyed taking in the things that were around him. So he seemed genuinely enthused about conversation. To my knowledge, I've never had an interaction with Alex, yet I exist. Is Alex omnipresent in nature, or are we all figments of your imagination, Paul, since you've known him and we have not? So, yeah, I guess from his perspective, none of this is happening, right? So from Alex's perspective, when I left his circle of influence, we were both around the age of 16. We knew each other for about 3 months. And when I went away, he was done with that figment. So I don't exist now. So, you know, you don't even come into play. I was a figment of his imagination, and you are nothing. Anyway, I've got to let you guys go. I've got to go get ready to be on Pimp Monk's morning wood show. Yeah, so go over to the Pimp Monk X channel. I'm gonna be on today. Shayra is gonna be there, and I believe I read that Marshall motherfucking Manson is going to be there. So that's probably gonna be a fun conversation. So I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.